Greetings from this beautiful castle. It's called the Fredensborg Slot. Slot means castle in Danish. It's a Renaissance castle here. It's beautiful. It's grand, big, and just like anywhere in Denmark, and you barely can see anyone. So it's just such a beauty here. By this lake in front of me, I think it's the second largest lake called the Esrum Cluster. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the depression. I received an email from Frank, and he contacted me about depression. Now, depression always has something to do with subconscious telling. I will elaborate a little later. So his email says, "Hi Kemila, my daughter is clinically diagnosed as depressed. However, she refuses to go for medication. She researched on her own and said she'd like to try hypnotherapy. Have you worked with people who are depressed? If so, has it been successful? Thanks, Frank." It's very ironic, Frank, to talk about depression, such a heavy subject, in this I think Denmark is rated as one of the happiest countries in the world. I think it's the second happiest this year, just right after Finland. To talk about this heavy subject in this happiest country. And so I'm going to make it a little light here. I always get excited about working with people who feel depressed, especially young people. Yes, I have worked with a lot of young people who presented themselves as feeling depressed. Now, at this historical place, I'm going to tell a historical story. And his name is Giordano Bruno. Bruno was persecuted for his as a philosophical thinker. And he was burnt alive because of his daring views. At the time, he said he believed that the universe doesn't have a center, and the stars we see at night in the sky are suns. They have their own planets, and there are many worlds. Now, that point of view didn't go very well back then, where he was living in the later part of the 16th century. Authorities didn't believe him and called him heresy. Now, if it's a heresy, we would have left him alone. Just some crazy people say crazy things. What's the big deal? But why did we, the authority at the time, the church, went above and beyond and took the trouble to burn him? If someone is talking nonsense, it's nonsense. Nonsense should have no power. It's unthreatening. The only reason the authority at the time, who was perceived as powerful entities, would bother to kill someone who talked nonsense was because they knew deep down this man spoke the truth. Their action of killing him itself betrayed them. Either this man was actually talking nonsense, which is to be left alone. It's nonsense. Or this man was speaking the truth, which of course deserved to be killed. So their action of the authority showed that Bruno was quite powerful. Now, today there are flat earth people. It's a theory. And I personally don't quite understand why the earth is flat. And I'm sure they have their own convincing reasons. And personally, I would not have the patience to listen to that. But guess what? We leave them alone, and we're not going to kill them. Maybe whatever they believe doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So what? They are entitled to have their opinions. We don't kill them. So why would the nonsense be threatening? The truth is not threatening. Only when we want to suppress the truth do we feel fearful. And the fear will get us to kill. suppression of the truth leads to depression. It's like in a society, in history, and also in our personal life. In our personal life, we are like our own inner psyche is like our own society. We sometimes suppress our own inner truth, and that's the reason for depression. Now, for example, everybody knows, be careful when you hear everybody knows that being an artist, being a musician, you cannot make a decent living. No, wanting to do artistic expression, wanting to make music, it's innate, something like a seed. It's an innate truth of your own personal life. But when you have that belief, I cannot make a good living out of it, then you want to suppress that. And so that keeps you safe. You go out and find a job instead of doing your music. And now that suppression will lead to depression. So depression means there's always something personal, some personal truth wants to come out. And then you become the internal Roman soldiers and the internal self-appointed authority who play the game of powerful suppression, which actually says that you are powerless. The action itself betrays you. Just like Roman soldiers or like the authorities back in the 16th century. Verbally you say, he's talking about nonsense. He's not important. But in action, you have to kill this person, take the trouble to kill this person, but the action means actually this person is important. So there's that betrayal going on. And we do that with ourselves internally. That's how my take of depression. And hypnotically, we can work on how soften that self-authority or self-Roman soldier inside us, beating us up, and how to safely allow, with the integration, allow the inner desire, inner truth to find its place to come out. And then that's a good life. So Frank, yes, I work with a lot of people with depression. As I said earlier, I get excited when I hear someone, especially young people, that get depressed. I particularly enjoy working with young people who are depressed. I feel they understand this more easily. Little older people, they have a little more years of conditioning, and I find it's easier working with young people who are depressed, and I love it. I love working with young people because I know something inside wants to grow, just like inner truth is true. Truth cannot be hidden. But we try very hard to hide the truth in our lives because we don't believe it's safe to allow them to grow, to happen. Like a seed needs to grow, needs to sprout. But we try very hard to push it back, that inner truth, inner desire. And that, in my view, is the reason for depression. So we try hard to convince ourselves to sell ourselves a lie. And but truth just is true. Truth doesn't need to speak out loud to argue. It wants to grow. And we try very hard to suppress the energy. All the energy, the life energy, goes to suppressing our inner truth. And as a result, we feel depressed. Your life is meant to be, or your daughter's life, Frank, is meant to be unique, is meant to be her own. It's not meant to be a massive production of everyone else. So yes, I would be very interested in working with your daughter. Thank you for your email.